What is up, gym owners? Welcome to the Two Brain Business YouTube channel. I am a fellow gym owner, Jay Cohen, Locomotion Fitness in Charleston, South Carolina, and I am here to talk to you about how to make cuts to your class schedule. Before I go down that road, don't forget, hit that notifications bell, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the awesome content we put out. Now, I know that cutting classes is hard, and it can be a very emotional decision, especially if you've got a long-time member, somebody who's been at your gym for 3+ years. You know that they can only come in the 5 a.m. class, but you also know that that class only averages 2 people and you are losing money hand over fist on it. And if we don't take a step back and evaluate what is really going on from a non-emotional place, we can really make some not awesome long-term decisions. And that's not to say you need to cut the class. Having those long-time members and managing those relationships is important, and only you can make this final call. But I'm going to provide you with an alternative way to take a look at things. And who knows, maybe if you cut that class, you can reallocate those resources, time, money to really help that member even better, or help 10 other people. So let's take a look at this from a non-emotionally charged standpoint. To do this, we need to take a look at what is your class break even. So first, we're gonna look at costs. What is it costing you to run a class? So we've got 2 sort of buckets here, variable costs and fixed costs. Variable costs, your staff costs. How much are you paying somebody to run a class? So for me, that's about $30 on average. I don't know what it is for you, but that is the cost that we know that we're going to have, and that's pretty easy to figure out. Then we've got our fixed costs, or our overhead. And that's a little bit more difficult because we have to figure out our overhead per group class that we are running. So what I want you to do here is take a look at your total revenue. So we're gonna go to the revenue side first. And then I want you to figure out, as a percentage of your revenue, what is your group classes generating? So let's say that, we'll use my business as an example. I'm pulling in $100. For me, my classes are about 50% of my revenue. So I know that I'm going to have 50 of those dollars on average coming from group classes. Now, knowing that 50% number, what that allows me to do is I can take my overhead. And so all the things, now we're back to the expense side, all the things that are gonna go into your monthly costs. So rent, electric, software, all the things that add up. We're gonna add all of those together, and then you're gonna use your percentage of revenue from group class, and you're gonna figure out what percentage of your expenses are going to cover group classes. So like I said, for me, 50% of my revenue comes from group classes. So I'm gonna take my expense number and multiply that by 50%, and that is the amount of overhead that I'm gonna allocate towards my group classes. So I take that variable or staff cost, which for me was $30, and I take that fixed costs, multiply it by that percentage, and then I can add those 2 together. And that is gonna tell me on average what it costs for me to operate a group class in the gym, okay? Once we do that, the next step is to figure out on average how much revenue is a class generating. And so there's a couple things we need to do here. Number 1 is we need to figure out our average revenue per visit. So the way to do that is take a look at your membership and figure out on average, and this isn't necessarily correlating to the number of visits. So like we sell 15 visits per month, or 10 visits per month, or 20 visits per month. And I could look and say, okay, if I charge $130 a month for 10 visits, that means that I'm making $13 a visit. But that's not true, because not all of your members are using all of their visits. Or if you've got an unlimited membership, we don't, but you might, you need to figure out on average, how often is someone coming to the gym, so that you can figure out that per visit cost, or that per visit revenue. So once we figure out what that number is, the next step is to look at what is the average class attendance for that time. So I've got my average revenue per visit over here, and then I've got my average attendance for that class. Now, if I take those two and multiply them together, I'm going to have, on average, how many dollars that class time generates for my gym. Now we know what it costs. We know how much money we're making. If how much money we're making is more than what it costs, we should probably keep that class. If it's less, then we should probably get rid of it. And that is how we turn this into a business problem and take the emotion out of it. So for me, that number is about 7 people. If I don't have at least 7 people on average in a group class, I know I'm losing money. And so anytime I see a class with less than 7, I'm going to think about taking it off the schedule. But before I do that, I want you to think about just a couple more things. Number one is we need to project your growth. So if you've got a 9:15 a.m. class time and it's only got 4 people in it, but you just started offering it a month ago and you know that it's catching fire in the food and bev world and you're gonna have a bunch more people coming in, maybe it's worth it to leave it on for a little bit longer to see if that average bumps up, in my case, to 7 or whatever you need to be above that break-even number. So don't forget to forecast into the future here. That's super important. The other thing is that I want you to make sure that we are mindful about your staff and burnout, and if you have the right person to teach that class or that specific group of athletes that you're targeting. Before we make any cuts, maybe we need to make sure that a coach makes a certain amount of money, or maybe we need to cut a class because we don't have somebody that can pick up that time. So although we've made it into a math equation, and that gives you a really great place to start, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go that route. But if we do make a cut because we are below break even, and that means every time you run that class, you are paying people to attend. That is not good for business. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not pay my members to come to the gym. So if we make that cut, think about what that does. You're able to reallocate 2 big things: staff time and your money. And with those 2 things back into the pot, you might be able to really go out there and find something that works, something that is gonna serve you so much better. A lot of times people have fear around cutting a time because they're gonna upset a small group of people from their membership. In reality, that might happen, right? You might upset people. However, what you need to look at is, okay, I've upset this many people, but the potential on the other side to fill in with more ideal clients, to be able to help more people even better, might more than make up for upsetting that small group of folks. The last thing that I'm gonna leave you with is please, 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 if you take one thing from this video, do not ask your members what times they want, if they're going to come to a time. Don't do any polls, none of that. As someone who has been doing this for a while, know that what people say they want is not what they actually want. And they are always going to ask for more than they could ever use. And so if you put a poll out there, you're going to be very frustrated when you get 100 responses for a 7:30 a.m. and you put it on the schedule and one person shows up consistently. Trust me, it doesn't work. Use the math. Figure out what you can and should be doing at a certain time and use that to inform your decisions, not the emotional membership coming back to you. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Don't forget, hit that notifications bell, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss anything. I am Jay Cohen, owner of Locomotion Fitness in Charleston, South Carolina, here for Two Brain Business. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week, and I will see you soon.